Take one step across an international border and almost nothing physical happens. Same soil under your shoes, same air, same human body. But the rules around you can change instantly. A different government may now have authority, different laws may apply. Your right to live, work, vote, or even enter can change because of a line you cannot actually see. Now, erase that line from the map. The land is still there. That's the strange part. Countries feel like geography, but geography alone never created one. A line can divide territory. It cannot make millions of strangers follow the same rules, recognize the same symbols, or think of one another as us. So what did humans build on top of the land? Ask someone where they're from, and they'll usually answer with a country. Almost nobody says the watershed east of town or the valley my family has used for generations. We answer with a political unit, as if the land came with a label. But that's backwards. The land came first. The labels had to be learned. Long before anything resembling a modern country existed, humans could become deeply attached to particular places. Archaeology gives us a useful glimpse at that transition in the Natufian communities of the Levant, roughly 15,500 to 11,500 years ago. At several Natufian sites, people built substantial stone dwellings, processed food intensively, returned to the same places again and again, and buried members of their communities there. Still not a country, but something important had changed. Imagine a spring in an open landscape. At first, it's just water. Then your group builds nearby. You learn when the spring runs low. You know which path gets you there faster. Food is processed and stored nearby. Children grow up around it. Someone dies and their grave remains there long after everyone else has gone to sleep. Return year after year, and that spring is no longer interchangeable with every other spring on Earth. It has history. It has memory. It has people attached to it. The dirt stayed dirt. What changed was the relationship. That's the first thing the thumbnail hides. A crude line of stones does not magically create territory. Territory begins earlier, when humans start treating part of the landscape as socially connected to a group. Water sources matter, shelter matters, stored resources matter, familiar routes matter, burial places can matter. Archaeologists have sometimes argued that graves, monuments, and repeated occupation may also have helped communicate claims to a landscape. That does not mean every grave was some kind of prehistoric border marker. It means attachment can become visible before a political boundary ever exists. The line came later. The feeling of ours came first. You still recognize a quieter version of this today. Drive through your hometown with someone who's never been there. They see ordinary streets. You see the shortcut nobody can ever explain properly, the corner where something happened, the building that used to be something else, the hill you know without needing a map. Same pavement, different meaning, and that distinction matters. Using land is not the same as belonging to land. Once land could become our place, humans inherited a much harder problem. Because our place is easy when our group is 40 people. What happens when it becomes 40,000? Picture a small village. Everybody knows everybody. You know who keeps a promise, who owes food, who shares when things go badly, who cheated someone last season, who's related to whom, and who absolutely should not be left alone with the grain store. In a group like that, a surprising amount of social order can live inside human memory. Reputation is the record. Gossip is the warning system. Personal history tells you who to trust. But keep adding people. 50, 100, 500. 5,000. At some point, the social problem changes. Robin Dunbar's work on primate and human social networks is often reduced to a famous number, around 150 stable relationships. That number is not some magical wall around the human brain. The useful idea is much simpler. Personal relationships do not scale forever. You can remember the behavior, alliances, debts, favors, and reputations of a limited social world. You cannot personally carry all of that information for an entire city. So humans did something remarkable. They started putting parts of social memory outside the individual person, and one of the clearest examples is sitting on ancient clay. Some of the earliest proto-cuneiform tablets from Mesopotamia were administrative records, not love poems, not heroic epics, grain, livestock, rations, labor, deliveries, which is almost embarrassingly practical for one of humanity's great inventions. Before writing helped preserve literature, it helped answer questions like how much came in, who received it, what is still owed. A spoken promise can disappear when memory fails. A mark on clay can outlast the conversation. And now, a stranger who wasn't there when the agreement was made can still inspect the record. That is a profound change in the way humans cooperate. I trust you because I know you can slowly become I can work with you because we both recognize the same rule. Measures do the same thing. Records preserve obligations. Officials carry authority beyond a single relationship. Documents let strangers prove things to other strangers. And rules make behavior more predictable even when the people involved don't know each other personally. You already use this system constantly. Hand your passport to a border officer. They don't know your reputation. They don't know your parents. They don't need to ask your neighbors whether you're really who you claim to be. The document speaks through an institution both of you recognize. That is why the passport is more interesting than it looks. It's personal trust replaced by shared structure. A settlement? Still not a country. A wall? Still not enough. Stored food? More coordination, but still not enough. Records, standardized measures, taxation, administration, recognized authority? Now you're getting much closer to something state-like. But the hardest part is still missing, because rules can make strangers cooperate. They cannot by themselves explain why those strangers eventually look at each other and feel we are the same people. If this changed what that line in the thumbnail means, write one word. Land or line. One correction before the rewrite. Because the approved sections 1 to 2 already include the land or line comment prompt, I'd use the end of the video CTA instead. 2 direct engagement prompts in one short Wildly Human video would weaken the experience. This version makes the CTA part of the final human mirror, instead of interrupting the explanation. Watch an international soccer match when the national team scores. The player may be someone you've never met, in a stadium you've never visited, surrounded by people whose names you'll never know. The ball crosses the line and millions of strangers shout, "We scored," not "they scored." We. That tiny word solves a problem the border could not, because a territory can be controlled without everyone inside feeling like one people. Rules can organize strangers. Records can coordinate them. Governments can exercise authority over them, but administration is not the same as belonging. A functioning state can tell you which laws apply. It cannot automatically make millions of strangers feel that the people living under those laws are somehow their people. That is where the final layer appears. Political theorist Benedict Anderson famously described nations as imagined communities. The word imagined is easy to misunderstand. He did not mean imaginary. He meant that in even a relatively small nation, most people will never meet the most other people in it. They cannot maintain personal relations with the entire group, but they can still carry a mental picture of that group as one shared community. Think about how strange that is. You can feel something when an athlete representing your country wins. You can recognize a flag instantly. You can hear an anthem and immediately know what social group it represents. You can open a newspaper, or today a news app, and see events happening hundreds of miles away described as happening to your country. Anderson argued that print culture played an important role in making this kind of large-scale national awareness possible. When huge numbers of people could read the same language, follow the same events, and imagine countless strangers doing roughly the same thing, people who would never meet could begin to experience themselves as part of one shared public world. Nobody needed to know everybody. They just needed to recognize the same larger story. Maps helped make the territory visible. Schools could teach the same historical narrative. Institutions repeated the same categories. Passports named membership. Flags compressed it into an image. Sports gave millions of strangers a reason to say "we" at the exact same moment. None of those things creates a nation by itself. That matters. A flag is cloth. A passport is paper and data. An anthem is sound. A border on a map is ink or pixels. Their power comes from humans repeatedly recognizing what they mean and expecting other humans to recognize it too. That is how a symbol becomes socially real. And once a category becomes normal enough, people stop noticing how much learning went into it. A child usually learns the name of their country long before they learn what a state is. They learned the flag before they learned sovereignty. They learned our team before political theory. They learn to answer, "Where are you from?" with a national label before anyone explains why that label exists. By adulthood, the system feels like part of the landscape, but it isn't the landscape. And there's another consequence hidden inside "we." Every rule of membership also creates a rule of non-membership. Citizen, foreigner, inside, outside, ours, theirs. That doesn't make borders inherently good or bad. It's simply what boundaries do. A category that tells people who belongs also tells them who doesn't. Now, put a deer next to an international border. It walks across. Same animal. Nothing in the deer's biology changes. The soil may look identical on both sides. A human crosses that same invisible line, and suddenly the legal world around them can change. Who has authority over them? Whether they can legally work there? How long they can stay? Whether they can vote? Whether the state considers them a citizen, resident, visitor, or foreign national? The deer crossed land. The human crossed a shared human system. And that's why saying countries are just lines on a map misses the interesting part. The line is almost the least impressive piece. Humans had to build everything that makes the line matter. First, a place had to become ours. Then, as populations grew, people needed rules, records, measurements, and institutions that could coordinate strangers who didn't personally know one another. And then came the strangest step. Millions of those strangers had to become capable of thinking of one another as us. There was no single morning that humanity invented the first country. Different societies reached large-scale political organization through different combinations of settlement, resources, authority, conflict, trade, administration, and shared identity. And the categories themselves are not identical. A territory is not automatically a state. A state is not automatically a nation. A nation can extend across political borders. A state can contain several national or cultural identities. And country is the everyday word we often use while blending several of those ideas together. That's why one ancient wall, one king, or one border stone cannot answer the title by itself. The answer happened in layers. Land became socially meaningful. Personal trust became institutional coordination.